Hi, this is Dr. Otto Janke for the Empire Longevity Insiders. This is our Longevity Live. This is Wednesday, April 19th. Thanks for being along. Glad to have you with us. In Empire Longevity, I think it's absolutely fundamental that we point out those things, stop doing these things, or avoid these products as these things that you either do or the products that you have around you, you eat, the foods, all this stuff is going to stop you, prevent you, or decrease your opportunity to actually reach longevity. I think it's actually adamant that we do those. I think it's important to tell you, by the way, the dangers appear, and don't go to that danger. I think it's fundamental, and we start looking at those aspects. We see that often. So one of the most common first things that you should stop doing if you do it, and if you don't do it, don't start, is, for instance, smoking. Don't smoke. It's amazing number of times that comes up on talks and in papers of longevity. We can talk about the ways you eat. I'm a plant forward eater, but I'm also a eat many things. But I'm a plant forward eater. So I think it's important that we start talking about those products that we can use. I posted on the Empire Longevity Insiders Facebook page a short time ago. What products do you do? What products do you use to clean around the house? Because some of the products are, let's be honest, are just deadly. Detrimental to you. I think our first couple dogs, we have greyhounds, and of course they lay on the carpet, nose right in the carpet. And we used to use some kind of like carpet powder to vacuum and make it smell better. You find out, those are just absolutely deadly to dogs. And then the carpets we would use would be like the stain resistant carpets, and those are bad for the dogs because they got their nose in there, and so you learn this stuff, right? We learn this stuff. So if I'm going to show you the stuff that you need to stop doing and avoid, I think it's just as important to show you the stuff that you should be doing, or some of the products you should be using. Again, we looked at a couple weeks ago, what do you use to clean your house? So one of the fundamental things, if we look at Empire Longevity and some of the fundamental aspects of what we call the pyramid of longevity. Pyramid of longevity, boom, right there. In the top part, we have the mental, emotional aspects of longevity. Absolutely fundamental that you find time on a daily basis. If not, then you got to do it weekly to take the brain out of gear for a while. We have meditation in my office on a regular basis. Some of our newest programs we're having for our practice members, you will be in. We're going to schedule this for you so you participate, because I think it's one of those things that's fundamental for you to be around for decades to come, to make your next decades, your next best decades, is to find time to do that. So for me, it's meditation. You can do it by going for walks in nature, instrumental music. Number 2 is rocket fuel. Absolutely fundamental that we start going to, and I think it's, if we follow this, if we start looking at books like this, Blue Zones, people around the world in which they live into their 90s and 100s, 80s, 90s, 100s, and they're active. They participate in their own communities, in their own lives, their friends' lives. They're active. They're plant forward. They're plant first eaters. If you're going to be around the longest, it looks like you're going to be a plant eater. You know what's even scarier is that you look at some of the, I'm not anti-animal. I'm going to do those things with the people who live the longest do, And what's kind of scary was, for a while, we're seeing these fake proteins, these lab created proteins. I think we're going to see more of that, where the animal proteins you're going to be having aren't going to be raised on a farm, but they're going to be created in a lab. That's scary. But plant-based, eating well, eating nutritiously. So that's number 2. The number 4, I'm gonna skip number 3 right now. We're gonna come back to that. Number 4 is gonna be an optimized nervous system. One of the easiest ways you can do that is make sure you have absolutely great posture. Built best to be best. Built best to be best. One of the biggest problems I see is, and I'm a doctor of chiropractic, one of the worst things I see is just that forward head posture, which is just aging people. It's rocketing your decay. It's absolutely just accelerating your decay, and it's absolutely terrible. Worst thing about it is we create it. We create it. I tell the story often of Mrs. Johansson, an 82-year-old woman when I first started in practice, 82-year-old woman who was from, I think, Sweden or Norway, and she had forward head posture. She had that because of an injury she had had years before. But when I see the kids in my practice now, the college and high school students, it's just, holy guacamole, it's bad. It rockets. It rockets your decay. But we're going to come back to the third part, and that is motion. Understand that in Empire Longevity, we talk about the 5 aspects of motion. The 5 aspects of motion. And it amazes me that people don't do this, but it's something that if we look at the blue zones, and if you look at what our grandparents are doing, they were doing this, but they didn't go to gyms, But we look at cardio, power, flexibility, balance, and posture. All 5 of those. Let's go to power. I'm gonna give you two articles today. And the 2 articles are going to be fundamental in that we need to be lifting. We need to be lifting more. Going to the gym and doing 20 minutes or 30 minutes of running is great for you. It's not enough. We need to really understand this, that the exercising we're doing, it's not full encompassing. We need to do more. And I'm going to dispel the whole idea of 10,000 steps. Because the 10,000 steps, I think we could have cut that by in half or by 2/3 if we had made it much more intense. And that word intense is going to be something we're going to bring up a couple times tonight. Pretty important stuff. So if we look at an article from, it's a long article, as you can tell. European Review of Aging and Physical Activity, functional and or structural brain changes in response to resistance exercise and resistance training led to cognitive improvements. A systematic review. Fundamental that we look at this. European Review of Aging and Physical Activity, functional and or structural brain changes in response to resistance exercises and resistance training lead to cognitive improvements. Cognitive improvements. Big article here. I'm not going to go through it all with you because you'll be like, whoa. Let's get down to some of the basics of it. Is that when you exercise and lift, and the lifting is not going to be just, I'm going to go curl to get my biceps. That's going to be better for you than doing none. But it's really going to be a cascade of doing different lifts, working in different parts of your body. I love to lift because I love the buzz from it. My time of being a male model is gone. Never was there, but any part of it was gone. But I do it because I think better after I lift. So, I have a talk coming up in a short period of time. I'm going to go lift beforehand. If I have to go write a paper, I have a couple articles coming up. If I write, I go to the gym, I work hard for 45 minutes, then I go write for 2.5 hours. And I just boom, boom, boom. I think better. If we look at structural brain changes in response to resistance training, rely at least partly on the modulation of specific molecular and cellular pathways that are involved in neuroplasticity. What's neuroplasticity? It's the ability of your body, your nervous system to adapt and get better. We need that. We need that. Critical for you. Neuroplasticity. The nervous system learns. Consequently, positive effects of cognitive performance. In this context, the modulating role of resistance exercise and or resistance training on the release of neurochemicals such as BDNF. Brain-derived neurotropic factor. Absolutely necessary for your body to work better and your brain to work better. In particular, structural brain changes after physical interventions are assumed to be mediated by the BDNF. Furthermore, is involved with neuroplastic processes such as synaptogenesis, the ability for that thing over here and that thing to come together and make a connection. If your brain doesn't make the connections, you don't move on, man. Your brain doesn't keep on moving on. You don't learn. And it's linked to spatial memory performance and higher serum BDNF concentrations in response to acute physical exercises or physical training have been associated with improvements in executive functions. Your brain does better when you pump iron and you're hitting it. By the way, you don't have to pump iron. You can use bands. You can use your body weight, but you got to move. You got to lift. Long-term furthermore, BDNF is involved in many neuroplastic processes such as synaptogenesis, long-term potentiation of synaptic transmission, regulation of the differentiation of neuronal precursor cells. Your body functions better. Your brain functions better. You think better. Your brain makes better and more connections when you exercise by lifting weights, resistance exercise. A lot of times I will I'll use bands often, but I work hard. It's not like I'm going, I'm working hard using the band, and it gives me I enjoy using it. It's just fun. We see over and over again influence of exercise variables and training variables on neurocognition. You function better. Your brain works better when you're doing this. This article goes on, and it's fantastic article. In summary, resistance exercise and resistance training are powerful physical intervention strategies to induce meaningful functional brain changes, especially in the frontal lobe, which are accompanied by improvements in executive functions. How can we get you to do this more? Because one of the terms I use for exercise, it is a compound health factor. A compound health factor. What is that? I may exercise, say I want to lose weight. So I want to lose weight. So I'm going to exercise. But because I'm exercising, I get all these other things. I get a compounding effect to my body, to me. I get a compounding effect. Other things happen. So I may want to lose weight. So I'm going to lose weight, but my brain frickin' works better. I get neuroplastic modulation in my brain. My brain then makes better connections. I move better. I get better balance. I get stronger. I sleep better, digest better. All these other things happen because I'm exercising. Again, I wanted to lose 10 pounds, so I'm losing that, but I get all these other benefits also. I think there's about 4 or 5 compounding health factors. One's exercise, one's rocket fuel, 3, great sleep, 4, mental rest and focus, and 5 is chiropractic adjustments. Furthermore, based on the studies reviewed, resistance training leads to lower white matter atrophy and lower volumes of white matter lesions. You get less brain shrinkage when you lift, when you have resistance training. Wild stuff. Wild stuff. Most importantly, engaging in regularly in resistance exercise and or resistance training across the whole lifespan appears to be imperative for ensuring physical and brain health because muscular weakness in the early years of life, adolescence, has been shown to be associated with disability in later life. And 4 weeks of detraining, being physically inactive, completely reversed the physical and cognitive improvements of 22-week resistance training in older adults. Let's look at this. What happened to people during the COVID lockdowns? We weren't allowed to go to gyms. People did nothing. A lot of people sat at home, ate a lot of really bad stuff, and drank a lot of alcohol while watching just the world be set on fire on TV. 4 weeks of detraining, being physically inactive, completely reversed the physical and cognitive improvements of 22-week resistance training in older adults. We need to get kids exercising more, lifting weights earlier. Not to build them up or anything, but to get them to be better. Their brain's going to work better. Ironically, from UC Davis Health, pick up the pace. Exercise intensity matters more for your health than steps. On World Exercise Day, we learned from UC Davis molecular exercise physiologist Keith Barr, sorry, Keith, it's Baar, how our body responds to physical activity, why intense exercise is better for your heart than walking more steps. So the whole 10,000, some suggest, as they say here, some suggest walking 10,000 steps a day or half an hour exercise. What's the recommendation on daily exercise? Studies show that walking 8,000 steps a day has a dramatic effect on all-cause mortality, yet any walk is better than not doing anything. Even in a cooler study from Copenhagen, they studied people who were cycling to work. They asked if you have a longer bike commute, does that have a beneficial effect on you? Live longer. We know that exercise is also good for your heart. It's very clear that despite a good diet and normal weight, people can still have a much higher risk for chronic disease if they're not fit. Fundamental is that we have to get people not to only exercise, but exercise the ones who are now exercising. We need to get them exercising more intensely. And people are like, but I don't want to. I will say one of the simple things I have for you on that is you can either take the time to do it now or the time will be taken from you in the future. This isn't a choice. Either you take the time now or the time will be taken from you in the future. And when I talk to people about this, about longevity, there's two types of people, two groups of people who listen to this. And it's really demarcated pretty like boom, this part and this part of people. The one part of people are the ones who think, I'm too far gone, I'm too old, this can't benefit me. My first question to them is, how long are you going to be around? How much more life do you have left? And they say, I don't know. And my answer is, exactly, you don't know. You don't know. If you do not know, let's freaking rock the crap out of this then. Let's go. How do you want to do those next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years? How do you want to do them? Cognitively and physically better or not? Those are the people who say, I'm too old. And then there's other group of people who say, I'm young. I don't need to be thinking about this yet. My question for you then is, when are you concerned about growing a beautiful rose bush? When it is a couple years old, or when you take the seed and put it into the ground? Well, of course, when you take the seed, initially put it in the ground. Wouldn't you want the same thing for you? Well, of course you would. No one's too young. No one's too old. I had a young woman in my practice, and I asked her, she was 22 years old. And she said, ever since I turned 20, my health has gone down. And I almost, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I asked her, how long do you plan on being around? And her number astounded me in that she anticipating, maybe my late, maybe 65, maybe 68, something like that. I said, you do know that's like 10 years less than the average American is living. And she said, and this has come up more than once in my practice. This has come up quite often. I saw how my parents died, she said. I saw how their last couple years were, and I don't want to live like that. So I said, you'd much rather cut it short? She goes, yeah, than have to go through what they did. I'd much rather cut it short. So my next question to her was, well, what if we could help you change that? And she was dead set on it. She was adamant. And she said, well, that'd be great. But not only do we have to get you and I all together, understand 25% of Americans don't exercise, don't move. 75% of school-age children are not meeting the recommended exercise requirements. They're not meeting it. We're teaching a generation not to move. We're teaching a generation not to move. You either take the time now or the time will be taken from you in the future. If you don't know where to start, contact me. If you don't know where to start, contact your local gym. If you don't know where to start, go to YouTube and find out weightlifting for beginners. There are thousands of hours of videos for that. Weightlifting for beginners without weights. Thousands of hours. You can find it all right there. This is a lot easier than you think. It's also pretty critical that we do this. It's also critical that we start doing this. I don't care what age you are. I don't care. I don't care if you're 10 or you're 90. Let's go. Your brain is going to function better. You're going to be around better for doing this. Let's go. If I ever can be of help to you, please always feel free to private message me. Email me, Otto, O-T-T-O, at empirelongevity.com. Let's go do this. You're not going to end up a big muscle head. Maybe you will. That'd be great. You're not going to end up a big muscle head where you're going to be bulked out and everything. You don't put that much time into it. You aren't going to change that dramatically, but you are going to get toned up. And more importantly, you're going to get the biggest muscle, the most important muscle in your body, toned up. That one is your brain. Let's go do this. I'm Dr. Otto Janke. Thanks for being with us at Empire Longevity Live. We'll see you next week.